Hello and welcome to South Asia Focus. I am Smita Prakash. This week we have with us security analyst Qamar Agha, who will talk to us about the security situation in Iraq as the militant outfit ISIS inches towards Baghdad and what it means for South Asia. But before that, here's a brief report. The Sunni militant outfit Islamic State in Iraq and Greater Syria ISIS caught the Iraqi administration unawares and moved swiftly, capturing northern and central Iraq and taking over cities of Mosul, Hawija and Tikrit in the north, only facing opposition in Shia-dominated southern Salahuddin province. The group is now inching towards capital Baghdad. The relentless progress of ISIS militants has led to increasing worries and security concerns and has forced thousands of Iraqis to leave their homes and flee to other cities. Iraq's largest oil refinery, located north of Baghdad in the city of Baiji, was also under attack by ISIS militants on June 19th. After the militants took control of the refinery, the Iraqi Air Force started bombing the area, and according to reports, they managed to recapture the refinery from the ISIS. Meanwhile, 40 Indian workers who were working on a construction project in Mosul have been held captive by the ISIS. India's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Syed Akbaruddin said the Iraqi government had confirmed kidnapping of the Indians and that all efforts were being made to ensure their safe return back to India. Along with the workers, 45 nurses from India's Kerala state are also stranded at a hospital in Tikrit. Thank you for speaking with us, Mr. Agha. The hostage situation that we have in Iraq, it's a very complicated matter. Does India have a hostage policy? Does India talk to get involved with hostage negotiations? Do we talk to hostage takers? How does India deal with a situation like this?
Actually, we don't have a hostage policy, and but we have been dealing with this situation for a number of years. A similar situation existed earlier also in Iraq, and from there we brought them back to India. But per se, if you ask me, no, there is no policy. We have people in Foreign Ministry who've been negotiating. We have a team of people, who.
It's a dynamic situation whereby you cannot ignore the situation. You cannot say we don't deal blanket thing that we don't deal with a hostage situation. We don't deal with people who take people hostages. We have to get the citizens back. So how does this work? Does India pay the money that is required? How does one go forward from this situation?
First of all, Smita, these groups are very dangerous. They are ruthless killers. So it is very difficult to deal with them. What we normally done via friends, we start negotiation. Contacts were made, through Iraqi government, through persons,
Red Crescent and the
Red Crescent, and then there are other ulamas are there. One good thing in Iraq, we have friendly ties with all the three major ethnic groups of Iraq, the Shia Arabs, the Sunni Arabs, as well as Kurdish people. They are very friendly. We are also friendly with the Saddam loyalists who are part of this, who are supporting ISIS in Iraq at the moment. Plus, we are also, we have contacts with the tribal chiefs, Sunni tribal chiefs in this region, So therefore, we have a hope, I'm very hopeful.
If India had such good ties across the board, if India had a good ground support, then why was it that Indians were selected for a hostage situation? Because this is, even if it is a Shia-Sunni conflict, now the hostages don't belong to any particular religious group. It's not as if the Sunnis have kidnapped the Shia Indians or anything like that. Why did that happen?
Smita, but we don't have any ties with ISIS. It's an Al-Qaeda backed group, They belong to the same ideology. They were trained by the same people. All these Abu Bakr, Baghdadi and all were trained in Pakistan, They were really a part of the Al-Qaeda. After the death of Osama bin Laden, a split took place and they went the other side, They refused to accept the Zawahiri's leadership. So this is a group, which is mostly these are the people who are from outside. This is a multinational group, by the way.
So is it a third country which has been directing them, or people sitting in a third country who've been directing this group to kidnap Indians? Because Indians being kidnapped in a place where we have goodwill seems a little incongruous.
Yeah, that is true, but I am sure, in the end we might find out, we get to know, but not now, maybe ISI or maybe somebody else to embarrass Modi, who just took over power in Delhi, you never know, these things, because Indian consulate in Afghanistan was also attacked, after the ceremony, soon after the his takeover, and this is second major incidents have taken place. I mean, it is difficult to comment
Motive
at
cannot
the
be attributed now. Right. Now, there are two sets of problems we have. One is that there is the workers, the the workers in Iraq who've got kidnapped, and the second lot are the nurses with whom there is a contact. They are not in a hostage situation, but it seems those nurses don't want to come back. Now, how do you evacuate people who don't want to come back?
I heard a talk yesterday with somebody who's working in one of the refineries there. He said that he doesn't want to come. I said, why? Then he said, look, I have paid quite a lot of money, to come. He sold out his property or some land, from Punjab, He said, I've come here, I can't go anywhere now, So I have to be there. Same situation is with the nurses, they have paid a lot of money to their agents, and they have no problem with the local people. So they think, they should stay back, make some money and come back. They are in a disparate situation.
Now, do you think that here there is a problem of the Indian embassy not knowing that this would happen, not intimating the people of Indian origin in these countries that, look, the situation has become bad and it's time you left? But on the other hand, a communication of that sort also triggers panic. So where is the balance? How does one get that balance?
They issued the advisory, but it was too late. Their action was too swift. Even the ISIS action was too swift. Even the American couldn't have any intelligence input. They just came in. They had the local support. They were backed by the Saddam loyalists, tribal chiefs. So they just moved in from Syrian side and taken over the Mosul town. But the conflict was going on for a very long time in Ramdi and Fallujah, the other two towns. At that time we should have decided this. We should have issued the advisory about a month back. But as I said earlier, some people might have come back, but many decided not to come. This is a situation,
So now there's a political problem that the government is coming in for a lot of criticism that you are not evacuating our citizens, and then you have the nurses who say, some of them at least, who say that they don't want to come back. And there was also a report that one of the hostages, the group which was taken as hostages, there was a problem because when the owner of that company told them to leave, some of them did not want to because there were dues. Now, there's a problem about exploitation. The nurses also, it seems, some of them have not received their salaries for 2 to 3 months. There's also a problem of exploitation out here where the owners are exploiting the Indian workers, and because there's money due to them and they have to pay back loans in India, that's why they're putting their lives to risk.
It's a big risk, because there is most of the banks were looted by ISIS, even including the central bank, Almost they looted $450 million from there. Then the billions, then other valuables, they just have taken. So the banks doesn't have the money also. And the problem is, these employers, many of them are fake employers, they are not giving salary proper salary were not paid, for months, and they're waiting to receive the salary. Situation is worsening in that, security situation is continuing to worsen in that region. Not only in these towns, but the entire country, most of this part particularly. And then nobody is there to guide them or help them. Airports are closed mostly in this region. Roads are also blocked by the militants, and it is very difficult to come out now.
Is there a solution to this problem? Because across West Asia, one has seen that there are these construction site workers, Indians, who are exploited by their owners, and they really have no one to go to. So it ends up becoming an Indian government problem to evacuate them, to solve their problem, and clearly India is out of, India is not able to handle the volume that comes across their way, whether it is household help, whether it is construction site workers.
So approximately 70 lakh Indians are working, and 70%, more than 70% of our oil supply comes from this region. We have a trade, it's almost 150 to 200 billion dollar worth, then about 25 to 30 billion dollar remittances annually comes from this region. So it's a very important region for us. Second thing, the type of government or the organizations which are existing in these countries are it's very difficult to deal with them. There are no, labor laws are not there. The major problem with them, the government of India has been negotiating with them for a very long time. These are not modern nation states. So that's a major problem. They have a very archaic labor laws, hardly any laws existing, and most of the laws are not in favor of the labor but in the employer interest.
You see now Iraq formally breaking up into three parts now?
Virtually, if you look at the Kurdish region, they have got de facto independence. The center has no control over them, and this Sunni enclave which they have, is a very powerful group over there. It will take long years. There's no military solution to it. They'll have to negotiate and find out something.
That brings me to the question about the Shia monuments. There are many who say that the Shia monuments will be historical monuments will be just brought down at this rate.
That would happen, then it would spread to all over South Asia also. If this problem come, Pakistan, India, everywhere this problem come, and it's a very serious, because these are the
you see the fallout of Shia Sunni divide in Iraq happening in India, in Pakistan too.
There are reports which are coming, from Pakistan. Number of massacres have taken place of the Shias. That's going on it started from Pakistan. In fact, if you see,
So, but any
you see,
any
it's not
attack,
Smita, it's not a Shia Sunni per se fight. It's between Shias and the militant.
correct?
These militants, they are clean. They have issued fatwa. They said that look, Shias are not Muslims, and they say we don't want to govern by the Shia regime in Baghdad. We want a pure Islamic state, and we want to establish this Khilafat, caliphate, not only in Iraq but also Syria, Levant, Lebanon, and that will include historic Palestine also, which means we'll have a big region. If you include all these countries and form a federation of these countries or emirates, of Caliphate, then Shia would come into the minority, and Shia for the option which they have given, either you convert into the pure Islam which they believe is correct, or leave the country or die. Then nothing, they are ruthlessly killing these people. But the Shia Sunni conflict as such in Iraq is not
correct.
there.
What do you see now the impact on South Asia, even if the evacuation is successful? That is one aspect of it. What is the impact of this conflict going to be on Asia economically and socially, culturally?
First thing, this problem started from Pakistan, Afghanistan, when Russians came in, Russian occupation. After that it is started. The groups were formed in Pakistan. First time, the jihad was declared by the Pakistani mullahs. And then earlier they fought with Russians. After the Russian withdrawal, we saw the problem coming in Kashmir, then problem coming in to Central Asia and all over the region. It is spread from there. The jihadis went from Pakistan to different countries and started jihad in other countries. This is a very sensitive region, and it's a region where large number of youth, unemployed, poverty is there in this region. So therefore, it will have some social and cultural impact. Also the religious conflict have potential to come to this region. Second thing, economic, yes, it's going to be, Iraq is the second largest oil producer, second largest oil supplier to India. We have oil, $20 billion of oil we purchase annually from Iraq. And Iraqi oil supposed to be one of the finest Basra crude, refining charges is less. If the oil prices goes up further, it's already $5-10, it will have direct impact on our economy. Budget deficit would further increase. Inflation, because oil prices going up means every price of
Can India play a role in quelling the problem there in some way? Can it be a mediator? Can it be, Can it help in any manner? I'm not talking militarily. I'm talking, can it help in any manner to bring the people to a negotiating table?
India's policy is not to meddle in the internal affair of these countries. One. Second,
has been, but then if it's going to impact upon...
I would suggest, not only India, India along with China, Japan, South Korea, these are the major buyer of oil from Saudi Arabia, from the region.
Interesting that you're naming all these countries and none of them are in the OIC. The OIC is a defunct organization, isn't it?
OIC is a defunct organization and the Arabs have no mechanism to deal such situation. This is another problem, the Arab world doesn't have a mechanism.
So all the non-West Asian countries which are oil-consuming nations, they should be.
They should be, plus some United Nations initiative, where they can come, And that is already, United Nations have already...
It's already too late, isn't it, by the time...
Late. Nobody is willing to send troops on ground. Americans have said no. NATO will not send. They have a very bitter experience in...
So just let Iraq combust?
I think it will not go, because local people and the new government which we are hoping will be installed soon, and international community should help install and initiate some political process between Shias and Sunni and the many political parties. The religious organization, the religious leaders in Iraq have already, called for these people to come to closer, Shia and Sunni both, So I have some hope over there.
Do you see a time frame when this thing will be solved?
I think very soon initiative would be taken,
Okay, and we hope that the Indians at least will be brought back.
I'm sure. I'm very confident, I'm hopeful, that these Indians who are kidnapped there would be brought back. This is just for money matters. I don't know who would pay, Indian government or Iraqi. Hopefully Iraqi would pay and bring them back. This ISS, has an expertise in kidnapping, gun running, drug running, and they have kidnapped hundreds of Europeans, and made millions of dollars out of it, So they have this expertise.
It's for ransom.
It's for ransom, They have been doing it for a very long time.
Thank you very much for speaking with us, Mr. Haque.